He just had his feet washed by God himself. How can you? How can you, Judas? How can you deny Jesus? You had the best rabbi. You had the best shepherd. You had the best counseling sessions. What is up with Judas? How could he do such a thing? And the Bible tells us how it happened. It says that Satan entered him. Hey, last week we started this section of the book of John called the Upper Room Discourse. This goes from John chapter 13 to John 17, and this is the final day before Jesus is crucified, and he chooses to spend his final hours with the people he's closest to, with his disciples. And we talked a little bit about this last week, how they went up and then they're eating a little bit. Jesus breaks up dinner. He serves them by washing their feet. They're a little bit caught off guard by this moment because there was no servant there, but Jesus revealed that there was a servant there, and he washes them and he cleanses them. There was a little bit of resistance from Peter, which we'll touch on in just a minute. We're going to continue this conversation that Jesus is having in the upper room, and we're going to start in verse 18. He says this, "I am not speaking of all of you. I know whom I have chosen, but the scripture will be fulfilled." Now, Jesus is about to identify himself with a prophetic psalm in Psalm chapter 41, verse 9, and he quotes it, "Who ate my bread and has lifted his heel against me." Now, why is Jesus bringing this up? Because Jesus is identifying the betrayer that's among them, Judas. And he's laying this out to set up the framework for his identity. So he's saying, listen, I'm fulfilling the scripture just once again from all the signs and all the things that we've done in the past. Now I'm fulfilling also this scripture that someone's going to lift up his heel against me. And I'm telling you this now before it takes place. So when it takes place, you might believe that I am. And this is the word that we've used throughout the book of John, that John uses throughout the book of John to identify Jesus as the ego eimi. Jesus is the I am, the same I am that whenever he showed up to Moses and said, "I am the Lord your God." And so Jesus is identifying himself is divine, right? Jesus is saying, hey, when he's making this statement, when he's saying ego eimi, he's saying I'm God. And so he's fulfilling the scripture by revealing him this. And he says this, not just is he revealing I am, but he's saying that you might believe in I am. Now, if you remember, we've touched on it throughout this as we've been going through the gospel of John here, is that John 20:31, John tells us why he is writing his gospel. And if you remember, the reason why he's writing his gospel is that you may believe in Jesus Christ, the Son of God, the Messiah, and that by believing, you might have life in his name. So John is plugging away at all these statements that Jesus is making, and Jesus is saying, listen, there's gonna be one that rises up his heel against me. He's gonna betray me, and this is identifying me once again as the I am. This is associating me with Yahweh. And so in verse 20, he says, "Truly, truly, I say to you, whoever receives the one that I send receives me." Now, the one he's not talking about a specific one. You can think of it as ones. Receives the ones that I send, receives me, and whoever receives me receives the one that I've sent. After saying these things, and this is really important because John is always bringing out the emotions of Jesus because he's well acquainted with them. After saying these things, Jesus was troubled in his spirit. He was moved. Now, the last time we see this, it was at the funeral. Well, they thought it was a funeral. It was actually a resurrection event. In John chapter 11 of Lazarus. And so you remember, he was moved at the affections of the people. And so here he is again, troubled in spirit, but this time for a different reason. He testified, "Truly, truly, I say to you, one of you will betray me." So Jesus knows that this moment is going to happen, but he's still moved that the moment is happening. Are you with me? Nothing's catching him off guard, right? Nothing catches God off guard. God is omniscient. He knows all things, But that doesn't mean that he can't feel you when you're going through something. And so Jesus is very well acquainted. His heart is moved. He's in it emotionally. He's in it present as God in the flesh, but he's also moved by that. And he says, I say to you, one of you will betray me. And so the disciples looked to one another, uncertain of who he spoke. It became like, is it you? Right? Is it you? Who is it? And so they're kind of looking around. And none of them, by the way, point to Judas. Now, we know it's Judas because we've read the Gospels. The Gospels are being written at this moment. And so one of his disciples whom Jesus loved, who is this? John, that's right, John the Beloved, who Jesus loved, was reclining at the table at Jesus' side. So Simon, here's Peter once again, Simon Peter motioned to him, hey, John, motioned him to ask Jesus, who is he speaking about? It'd be kind of like, we play telephone, right? Could you ask so-and-so? Like maybe he's thinking John is closer to Jesus physically, or he's just closer to Jesus all around. Like he's the one that's resting right next to Jesus. He's like, hey, John, like give us the scoop. Like who is it? Do you know? Because we don't know. And John doesn't even know, by the way. And so he tells John, he's like, would you ask him? Would you ask him for me? So that disciple, leaning back against Jesus, said to him, Lord, who is it? And Jesus answered, it is whom I will give this morsel of bread when I have dipped it. So when he had dipped the morsel, he gave it to Judas, the son of Simon Iscariot. Then after he had taken the morsel, Satan entered him. Satan entered him. How? We'll talk about that in a little bit. So Jesus said to him, what you're going to do it quickly. Now again, Jesus is moved. He's not frustrated because he knows what's happening, but he's deeply moved and he says, just get it over with. Do it quickly. Now no one at the table knew why he said this to him. So Jesus just told them, this is how you're going to know, and they don't get it. And so this just goes to show how slick Judas is and how deceptive he is. And so some thought that because Judas had the money bag, that Jesus was telling him, buy whatever we need for the feast, or that he should give something to the poor. So after receiving the morsel of bread, Judas went out, and look at what it says. He points this out, and it was night. Now, we know it was night. John is pointing this out. I think he's making a broader statement than it's just the time of the day that it's night. I think he's saying that the darkness has come. And so in this moment, there is a deep, dark moment. And I want to focus on three men at the table, the three men that were in this conversation besides Jesus. Let's talk about these three men at the table, because these three different men have three different postures, right? They're all different. First of all, we have John the Beloved. I love this painting that we're using by French artist Valentine Boulogne. Boulogne. I don't kind of like bologna, Boulogne. And so I don't speak French. I'm probably saying it wrong. But he painted this picture in the 1600s, way after Da Vinci's famous Last Supper painting. I really like this one because the details are more evident. You don't really have to dig with them. And so you'll see these details on the screen as we're talking. So here's John. And he's the one that we've been looking through his eyes the entire time. He's at Jesus' side, is what the ESV says here. In the Greek, that means that he's leaning on the bosom of Jesus. And this is why I love this. He's like right there. He's on Jesus. He's like leaning all up in there. You got the Passover lamb right there in front of them. And here's John right there just resting on Jesus, right at Jesus' side. So it reminds me, Now they're in this moment, all this is going on, it's super heavy, right? It's not like, hey, we're so excited to be at the table with Jesus. Like, it's heavy. Jesus is talking about someone going to betray them. They're freaking out. Jesus just washed their feet. They thought that was totally uncalled for. So there's a lot of mystery surrounding this moment. It's very heavy. They're full of food, all this. And so I always think about, used to when we go out to lunch after church on Sunday, we were tired, and we would go somewhere and eat. And Judah, when he was a little boy, and every once in a while he'll still do it, but Judah would come up after we were done. And listen, I'm was up at the church for 6 hours, and we're exhausted, and I just ate food and I'm full and my heart's full and all these things. Maybe that day I was a little frustrated about something. I don't remember. All the things. And it never failed. Every Sunday, Judah would come up and he would just lean on me. Just leaning on his dad after lunch. I'm full. I'm like, son, stop. It's hot, 108 degrees outside. And he's like leaning on me. And he would just do that. He always wanted to get close to his dad. And so now every once in a while I'll go and he's laying on his bed and I'll go and I'll lean on him a little bit. So what we learn from John is here, Jesus isn't bothered by it. Jesus isn't bothered, hey, dude, this is a heavy moment. Can you just give me some space? No, Jesus is welcoming it. He's there. And what we can learn from John is that lovers are leaners. Like we're just willing to lean in. And this bosom, this word that it uses, would have been considered the seat of emotions and inner thought. It was the posture of intimacy and affection and trust. He's fully invested in Jesus. Just like Judah was fully invested in me in these moments. No matter how much that was wearing me out, he was fully invested. And what we can learn from John is that if we're gonna learn to love, we must learn to lean. We must learn to linger. And we must learn to listen. This is how we grow in love, by leaning into the Lord during these moments of worship. Leaning into the Lord when he wakes you up at 3 o'clock in the morning. Come on, leaning into the Lord in every opportunity you get. And then we learn of Jesus. Come on, his yoke is easy, his burden's light. I learn that by leaning on the Lord, and then I listen. I'm not just leaning to be comforted, I'm leaning to listen because he has something to say. And so as the beloved of God, as the Lord sees us, we need to be people that are willing to lean in. And I just want to encourage you in that. Thinking about lingering, we have people that will linger after church. We've been up here all day long, and it's like they are hanging out. And we're like, we're turning the lights off. Some of y'all, you know who I'm talking about. You're the lingerers. It's okay. We love you. We love the fellowship. But they just linger and linger and linger. They're the lingerers, right? And I love it. I love the lingerers. They just want to hang out. We're in fellowship together. And so I have a little thing that I'll say, listen, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. And so we're turning off the lights. And so now we have a lockup schedule for our staff. So I don't have to wait for all the lingerers. So, but we love to linger because we love one another. This might be the only time that we see one another this week, but lovers are lingerers. So we can learn that we lean, that we linger, and we listen. The second person that we see at the table is Peter. Now, Peter's just Peter. I mean, every time we see him, he's opening up his mouth. He's running his mouth. He's not hesitant to open his mouth, but he is hesitant to trust. And I think these qualities that Peter possesses are the tendencies of many men. And so you got him right here like, oh, Lord, like you're going to wash our feet? Or, oh, Lord, I hope it's not me, the one that's going to betray you. But what we see is these three tendencies that Peter has that also many men, sometimes women also, but many men I notice have these qualities. First of all, they're hesitant, right? Not necessarily hesitant to speak, but hesitant to buy in, hesitant to trust, right? Just, I need about 6 weeks to make a decision, right? We're a little hesitant to commit. Then another thing about men is oftentimes we're skeptical. And we see this in Peter, right? He questions Jesus all the time. I mean, he's always there. He's always running his mouth. He's always doing something that he shouldn't be doing, but he's always there, right? Which is awesome. But he's skeptical. In Matthew 16, when Jesus predicts his death, he's like, I'm going to die. And Peter's like, Lord, you ain't going to die. You remember that? And Jesus rebukes him, and he's like, you don't have in mind the things of God. And he says, he calls him out, and he calls him Satan. He says, get behind me, Satan. So Peter is like not always trusting what Jesus says. We talked about this last week. And Jesus is like, going to wash his feet. Peter's hesitant and he's skeptical. Lord, you shouldn't do that. So these are things that Peter possesses. And the third thing, and I see this with men all the time, is he's over-promising. Come on. Over-promising and under-delivering. Listen, I don't ever want to be that to be a testimony about me. I want to make sure that if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to show up. If I'm supposed to be there at 9, I'm going to be there at 8:50. Come on, what I'm going to do is not produce disappointment, and people won't trust me for my word because I've overpromised and underdelivered. Now, I would rather be a person that underpromises and overdelivers. Men, that'll really help you in your marriage. It will really help you in your kids. That way your kids aren't waiting around. Dad said that we were going to do this. No, you're showing up. You're not over promising. And Peter does this over and over again. And here in this room, he does it big time. Remember, let's look at it. Verse 36. Peter said to him, Lord, where are you going? And we'll get into that passage in just a moment. Jesus answered him, where I'm going, you can't follow me now, but you will follow me afterwards. And Peter said to him, Lord, why can't I not follow you now? I will lay down my life for you. Over promising. I'll do it, Lord. Lord, I'm so loyal to you. I'll go to the grave. You said you're going to die. You rebuked Satan. I believe that. But I'm willing to die for you too. And if you remember, it kind of looks like that when Jesus is arrested and he pulls out a sword, right? It's just Peter. Slices the dude's ear off. Jesus supernaturally super glues the ear back on. Right? You guys remember this? Because Peter's eager Peter. And he's not willing to die. He would rather pick up a sword than pick up a cross. Now, if you know the end of Peter's life, he does pick up his cross. And he does follow Jesus unto that point. But in this moment, he's like, Lord, I'll do it. I'll go anywhere. I'll do anything. And then Jesus answered, will you lay down your life for me? Truly, truly, I say to you, the rooster will not crow till you have denied me 3 times. And if you know what happens, that's exactly what happens. Jesus is arrested. All the disciples scatter, not just Peter, but all the disciples scatter. And Peter's being approached by people, and they're like, are you one of his followers? Are you one? And every time he's like, no, I don't even know the man. He's cussing people out because they're accusing him. I mean, he's totally lost his way. And he denies Jesus publicly. And he said he would die for Jesus publicly. How many times do we make these over-promising statements to Jesus? But as we're talking about broken loyalty today, broken loyalty is different, hear me on this, than failed loyalty. Because Peter, like you and I, needs a lot of grace. And one of the great contrasts between Peter and Judas is Peter repented. Peter came back. And I love the heart of the Lord. So he had failed loyalty, and that loyalty was restored. Now, as we continue in the book of John, what you're going to see is that when Jesus is resurrected, he starts seeking Peter out. He's like, go tell the disciples and Peter. Make sure you tell Peter, because he knows Peter is dealing with the grit of overpromising and underdelivering. And he's looking for Peter, and he shows up and has breakfast with Peter. And he actually gives Peter the opportunity to reaffirm his loyalty to Jesus. It's a beautiful story. I can't wait till John 21 when we get there. And so Jesus does give him these opportunities to be restored, and Peter does. I mean, this is Peter had already been promised to lead the church. Jesus is like, I'm giving you the keys, Peter. You're the guy. He's the one that stands up at Pentecost. I mean, he is restored. But unlike Peter's story, which ended in returning to loyalty, Judas's story ends in the tragedy of betrayal. And we know Judas, and the picture shows here that he's got this money bag in his hand, kind of deceiving. Kind of holding. Everybody knows he holds the money back, but what is that money going to be used for? Now, I don't understand. No, maybe you're with me. How did Judas get here? How did this happen? How did he go from being a disciple? Come on, when Jesus sent out the 72 to go out and minister, Judas was doing that. He witnessed all the miracles. Listen, he heard the best preaching. He was part of the best church. He was part of the first church. He was right there with Jesus. He's at the table. He just had his feet washed by God himself. How can you, Judas? How can you deny Jesus? You had the best rabbi. You had the best shepherd. You had the best counseling sessions. What is up with Judas? How could he do such a thing? And the Bible tells us how it happened. It says that Satan entered him. Satan entered him. Now, I believe this. Satan had already had a hold in his life, and we know this. We know in John chapter 6, Jesus is talking about people that believe him. And he said that there are some among you that do not believe. And he was talking specifically about Judas. So Judas, even though he was among the 12, he was not among the 12. He was doing all the things. He was going to church. He was participating in the miracles. He was passing out the bread. He was serving. He was getting his feet washed. He was doing all the right things, but he didn't believe Jesus. And I can't tell you how many people that I've met that do all the Christian things, but they don't believe Jesus. That means they don't put their trust in him. That means that they are not loyal to Jesus. I would encourage you to think of believing not as what Walt Disney tells you what believing is, but did you see as believing is an active trust, loyalty. Loyalty is what believing is in the scripture. Loyalty to Jesus. There's another little red flag along the way that we just saw in John chapter 12. Remember that Mary is breaking the oil before Jesus and the fragrant offering. And Judas is the one that virtue signals, doesn't he? That money could have been used for the poor. But John tells us, he said he had already been stealing money, just taking a little bit of money. Just gonna stop by town and get me a soda on the way to the upper room. Come on, just dipping just a little bit. So did Satan enter him at that moment? Satan entered him at that moment because Satan already had his foot in the door. I want to talk a little bit about the heart of betrayal. And listen, I think it's easy to say that we would never betray Jesus in that way. And I trust all of you in this room, even those of you that I don't know. I would trust that you would never betray Jesus the way that Judas betrayed Jesus. In fact, I would even say that most of you wouldn't do what Peter did. But I would trust that you would never do that. However, a small yes, and I don't think Judas started off this way. I think he bought into his hesitancy. That small yes of compromise can lead to a bigger moment. And this is what we see. It's just little by little things happening over his life. And listen, I have watched this. When I got saved in 1993, I remember following Jesus with people, serving Jesus with people that were worshiping with me, people that were sitting on the front row with me, people that were pressing in, people that had a devotional life. I remember going to Bible college and celebrating Jesus with other people and worshiping and receiving the best teaching on the planet and encountering God like everybody wished they could. I remember people just over and over. I remember being a youth pastor and seeing young people burning fervently for the Lord, sharing their faith, doing all the things. It looks so genuine. It looks so real. And then I just see little by little, the fire dims. The fire grows cold. They get offended here and they hold on to that. They get jaded. They skip one devotional time with the Lord. They skip just one service because they need a day off to rest. They need to skip church because some preacher fell again, and can I even trust the church? And just little by little, the distance grows more and more and more. They get offended by his church, and they get offended by him. They start ignoring the scriptures. They start trying to get around the scriptures. Well, this is what I think. Nobody asked you what you think. I think that's probably one of the greatest statements that everybody has to say. Well, what I think. I ain't asking what you think. I'm asking what does it say? And you can please have some thoughts on that. Yeah. But you don't conform that to your opinion. You conform to that. That's what we're called to do with the Word of God. I've just seen it. People denying Jesus, maybe not with their words, with their lifestyle. Listen, there were students when I was teaching at Christ for the Nations that loved Jesus, had fruit in their life, and now they're like angry at God, bitter at his church. It might not be Judas level betrayal, but it is broken loyalty. And that is betrayal. You're going to decide, beloved, you are going to decide, am I going to be loyal to Jesus or am I going to betray Jesus? And that is, hear me, that is a black or white issue. Now, it doesn't mean that your loyalty won't fail. It will. And hopefully you will realize the grace of God can reach you in that failure and he will call you back and you respond to that. But if you keep, hear me, if you keep resisting the Holy Spirit, eventually your heart will be so hard and so cold. And the only way that you will come to God is through much brokenness and through much pain. And I don't want you to go through that. So sitting at the table, just like Judas was, sitting at the table is not the same as surrendering to Jesus. Just because you're sitting at the table, just because you're coming to church, just because you're doing the devotional life, just because you're pressing into worship, just because you respond to the ministry time. Just because you're sitting at the table, just because you're going to group, just because you're serving on a team. Beloved, I know this is sobering, but yes, we should be sobered. We should be sober. We should look at this and go, man, Lord, don't ever let me get to this place. I'll tell you right now, I am not at a place in my life after serving Jesus for 30 years where I feel like I got to take my foot off the gas. Because I've seen enough. I've seen enough people that I admired that blew it. I'm keeping my foot on the gas. Why are you burning for God? Why are you so passionate about God? Because I'm afraid that I'll be passionate for something else if I'm not passionate for him. So if you know anything about the story of Judas, his ruin and his destruction, after Jesus is condemned in Matthew 27, Judas goes back to the religious and tries to give them the money. He's like, I don't want it. I blew it. I was so foolish. Regret and remorse set in. He says, I have sinned by betraying innocent blood. And they want nothing to do with it. They were all about it. Now they want nothing to do with it. And so Judas goes to the temple and throws the money in the temple. Here, Lord, you can have it. Trying to do something to appease the guilt and the remorse and the shame that has set in. And he goes out to a field and he hangs himself. And the book of Acts says that the rope that he's on, either the branch of the tree or whatever, it says that he falls headlong and his body busts open and his intestines pour out. The Bible ain't G-rated, by the way. Why so much destruction? I mean, we're not even getting into the eternal destruction. Why so much destruction to his life? Well, it's not because he placed himself in the hands of God. Because people could look at that and say, God did that. God didn't do that. Satan entered him. Yeah. Satan entered him. And in that moment, he began to trust Satan. And look where that got him. Very quick. Yeah. Didn't take 10 years. Right. So I want to give you 3 marks or 3 warnings. I know this is sobering. 3 warnings of the heart of betrayal. Number 1 is greed. Everybody say greed. Greed. See, the problem wasn't that Judas held the money bag. The problem was that the money bag held Judas. And Jesus gives us this warning. You know, John 10, thief comes to steal, kill, destroy. I've come that you may have life and life more abundantly. And then Jesus also says this, life does not consist on the abundance of possessions. He says this, watch out. Yeah. Watch out. I'm warning you. Listen, when Jesus puts a warning label on our faith, you need to read it. Don't think it'll be all right. Grace of God. Well, the grace of God is to get you to read the warning labels. Watch out. Be on guard against all kinds of greed. And then he says, life does not consist in the abundance of possessions. He's like, don't get caught up in this rat race of having more. A bigger house, a better education, a white picket fence, all the things. Don't invest. Don't put any stock in this. When you die, I remember there was a bumper sticker. Dad, do you remember this? It said, he who dies with the most toys wins. There's a bumper sticker that said that. And then there was a corresponding bumper sticker that came out, he who dies with the most toys still dies. You don't get to take them with you. I don't see anybody at their funeral with their truck and their boat and their mansion and their stuff or even their degree. And none of those things are evil unless they have you. And we devote so many hours of our lives to our careers. We'll put God second to all of that until this season passes. So 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 9. The Apostle Paul says, those who want to get rich fall into temptation and a trap into many foolish and harmful desires that plunge people into ruin and destruction. Then he says this, and don't misquote this, for the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. He doesn't say money is the root of all kinds of evil. He says the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. For some people, eager for money, have wandered, here it is, the betrayal, wandered from the faith and pierced themselves with many griefs. The grief comes because you make foolish decisions. And then we blame God. Why do I feel this way? Because you made stupid decisions. And we have a way of blaming God for the way that we feel when we're the one that got us into that mess. Thank God for his grace. You make the mess, you fall in the pit, but you call on his name and he rescues you. That's the beautiful thing about the gospel. But listen, don't think having more will make your troubles go away. No, it's just more you have to be concerned about. Again, I'm not preaching against things. I'm preaching against the desire, continual desire for more things. We call this covetousness. This is why the 10 Commandments, come on, it's the top 10. The Lord finishes up as like, don't covet your neighbor's wife. Don't covet your neighbor's livestock, which that seems kind of weird. Hey, like that horse, right? It's like, but we do it all the time. We scroll on our little things and go, man, if I had that life, if I had that job, if I had that RV, if I had that food, if I had those kids, this is where it starts going. And we lose a sense of gratitude for what we have. You know what that's called? Covetousness. And it's right where the devil wants you. The devil wants you right in a place where you're not grateful for what you have, because if he knows he does that, he can undermine the Prince of Peace rule over your life. And we just, and this is what we do. We go, it's inspiration. You inspired me to get more. More influence. More likes. More comments. Beloved, this is sobering. It's all greed. It's all covetousness. And sometimes we do that in the kingdom of God as we sanctify the covetousness. And we go, oh, the Lord has blessed me with so much stuff. Is it a blessing or is it a curse? Having things is not an issue. Things having you is the issue. So stuff, yes, but also wanting what you do not have. And the way that you break greed's hold is this: gratitude and generosity. Gratitude and generosity destroy greed's hold on our lives. You're like, man, I struggle with that, Pastor. I'm always wanting more. Do you tithe? That'd be the first question I would ask you. So what is tithe? I get like $10 every Sunday. Do you know what the tithe is? The tithe is the tenth. And you don't, by the way, you don't give a tithe. You yield the tithe. That's why it says in Malachi, it says, bring the tithe to the storehouse. Why do you bring the tithe? Because it's not yours. By the way, 100% of it is not yours. It belongs to the Lord. So the Lord says, what I want you to do is tithe. I want you to yield a 10% to show me that the rest of yours is mine. And we go, I can't afford it. I don't want to be guilty of that. Because what happens when you withhold something that doesn't belong to you? We call that what? Stealing. And that's exactly what Malachi says. You say, how would we rob God? I would never rob. I would never betray God. And he's like, you do it by keeping what belongs to God. And that's just, and you can tithe all day long and not be generous. Right. How generous are you with your attitude? How generous are you with the wait staff? Of the guy delivering your groceries? But I want to suggest to you that the problem wasn't only greed, but it was also connections to the world. And so we have this warning about the love of the world. So Judas, part of his problem, the problem definitely wasn't that he was sitting at the table of Jesus. The problem was he is entertaining another table. He was sitting at another table. He was having other conversations. It started with entertaining, compromising conversations. What's interesting is this, in Matthew's gospel, Matthew 26, Judas goes to the religious, and he's the one that brings the sellout. They don't even come to him. He goes to them. He sees it as an opportunity to be made. So he goes to the table of the enemy to get some kind of fulfillment that only Jesus can give him. And I see followers of Christ do this all the time. We're going to the world for fulfillment, and Jesus is saying, I'm the one that's going to get you fulfillment. And then we go, Lord, I need you to do a thing in my life. But you're searching in all the wrong places. Looking for love. Okay. The world didn't come to Judas. He went to the world. And the world, I want to give you this firm, I say this, have said this a lot over the years. The world is not our companion, it's our mission. Your place in this world is not to be entertained and not to consume whatever the world is given. By the world, we're talking about the people of the world and the systems and the mindsets of the world. And we go, well, Jesus sat at the table with sinners. Jesus wasn't sitting at the table to be entertained, yo. Jesus was sitting at the table because his mission was to seek and save that which is lost. What is your mission when you sit at the table of the lost? Your mission, and beloved, we are to always be on mission. You know when you're not on mission? When you're at home. But you're actually still on mission because you need to represent Jesus well to your family. This is called living with purpose, by the way. You want to live with purpose, this is what it looks like. Not consume, 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 consume. It's empty. And you have all kinds of grief because of that, because you're not consuming enough today. So John, in 1 John chapter 2, he says, don't love the world. Nor the things of the world. For if anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. For all that is in the world, the desires of the flesh, the desires of the eyes, and the pride of life is not from the Father, but of the world. So he's saying, none of this is for you. Win it. Go to the world, but not to be entertained, but to advance this gospel. So greed, the love of the world, and number 3, giving the devil a foothold. These are warnings. So the Apostle Paul in Ephesians chapter 4, he says, do not give the devil a foothold. I want to suggest this to you because we look at Judas and we go, oh, Satan entered him. He had his foot in the door. Yeah. He gave the devil a foothold way back whenever he refused to believe Jesus. Your whole life does not need to be open to the devil. You don't have to be a devil worshiper in order for the devil's plan to have his way in you. You don't have to be that. You don't have to be some sinister, whatever deep, I don't want to give you any examples. You don't have to be the filthy thing that you hate in culture to belong to the devil. All he needs is a little foothold. And that's all he needs, and he'll take it. He'll absolutely take it. That's all he needs. He just needs one area of your life to not be submitted. Now, I'm not talking about like you're fully submitted, you're fully sanctified. You're not, but you're continually going, Lord, what area next? I've got this area down. What next? And usually it's like, well, your attitude. We're like, oh. Because that irritation that you're having all the time is because you didn't yield your attitude to him. So how do you know that, Pastor? It's because I struggle with that too. Yeah. So when I'm so frustrated about things, right? Anybody else do that? You just, I'm grumbling. That's what we call that. Yeah. Usually it's because I have a bad attitude, a bad mindset about something. So he just needs one area, one little area, any space, any room will do for him. He doesn't need all of you. Jesus wants all of you. Satan doesn't need all of you to have his way with you. He just needs a little bit of space just to sow one seed of unbelief, just to sow one seed of compromise, just to have one area in your life that he can put his hooks in and he can lead you that way. One hobby that has too much room in your life. One relationship that's got its hooks in you. One mindset. Even, hear me, one wound. Because we sin all the time and we go, it's because of my trauma. It's because of the way I was raised. It's because the church hurt me. You're right where the devil wants you. Being controlled by offense. Being controlled by unforgiveness. This is why Proverbs says, above all else, guard your heart. That means that you are setting a watchman on your heart. That you are standing guard and you're going, you know what? There's no bitterness. There's no offense. We need to become a people. Everybody's talking about how offended they are. We need to become a people that are unoffendable. Dude, that is my goal. I'm not there yet. I got a long way to go on that. I'm working on it. I want to get to the point to where you can say whatever you want to say and I can just let you. And not feel like I have to defend myself. Obviously not talking about good accountability. We need that. If you give the enemy a foothold, if he just gets his foot in the door, he will set up a stronghold. And then now, 30 years later, you're still wrestling with that struggle that you have. And more than the struggle itself, the way that it entertains your brain and your mind and your thoughts and costs you sleep and affects your relationships, it's all just because the enemy just got his hook in just a little bit. And you made an excuse for it. So stop complaining about how difficult the temptation is when you continually make foolish compromises, when we refuse to set up guardrails, when you neglect private time with God, when you ignore the scriptures and the wooing of the Spirit. And don't at me on this. Well, Pastor, you don't, just close the door. Can we just stop? Can we just stop making excuses and just close the door on the devil who is seeking to destroy you? Man, Pastor, why is this word so hard? Why are you? Because, man, I'm tired of seeing God's people caught up in the devil's schemes. You have the authority to shut the door. Only you can shut the door. I can't shut the door for you. This is why the Apostle Paul says, demolish those strongholds. So Jesus continues and he gives us this new commandment. Now it's interesting. Judas leaves. And the weight of this moment is there, right in verse 31. He says, now the Son of Man glorified and is glorified, and God is glorified in him. If God is glorified in him, God will also glorify him in himself and glorify him at once. Little children, yet a little while I'm with you, you will seek me. And just as I said to the Jews, so now I say to you, where I'm going, you can't come. In other words, he's going to the cross. You can't, and he's going to he's going to ascend to heaven after he's resurrected. He's like, you can't come there, but I'm giving you this commandment. And look at what he says. That you would love one another. Because you're going to be tempted to not love one another because you're going to get offended. It's going to be hard to love one another because they hurt your feelings. They didn't send you a text message because they don't ever reach out to you. Come on, guys. Let's grow up. We adults here. This is a grade school. As I have loved you, you are to love one another. And this is what he says. This is what will happen. If you love one another well, beloved, this is what will happen. All people will know that you're my disciples. Not because your humanitarian effort, not because you fed the poor, not because you stood out with a megaphone. All of those things are great. He's like, that's not how they're going to know you're believers. The way that they're going to know you're my followers is because you love one another just like I loved you. Because you're going to be willing to wash one another's feet. Because when Peter goes off, you're going to welcome him back in. You are going to love one another. You are going to outdo, as the Apostle Paul says, outdo one another in love. You're just going to love them. They're going to hurt you. They're going to mistreat you, but you're just going to love them. And we have an age right now where the church and many people say, I love Jesus, but not his church. That is not what Jesus is talking about. He doesn't say the world's gonna know that you're my followers because you love the world well. He said, how well are you gonna love one another? When your brother and sister is struggling, when they offend you, when they hurt you, are you gonna love them well? Are you gonna love them to the end? Are you gonna seek them out when they deny you 3 times? And he shows this on full display with Peter. You're going to have to hold tight to one another because persecution is coming. All of you are going to die except one of you, John. All of you are going to die martyrs. He did die, but not a martyr. You're going to have to be loyal to one another and loyal to me because you're stronger together. And the world will look at that and they'll go, that's the kind of Jesus that I serve, that those people are so committed. I've seen it over the course of this church. I've seen people be attracted to Jesus by how well you love one another. It's very attractive to the world because the world is quick to turn its back on you. Beloved, don't act like the world. We'll cross that mountain. I'll cut you if you cut my, you know what I'm saying? That's what Peter did. Whoops, don't do that. A little too far there. See, our response to Judas should not be, how could Judas do that? How could they betray the Lord? But instead, it should be, Lord, is there anything in my life that the enemy has a foothold? Is there anything in my life that has taken root that would cost me loyalty to you? Satan will be satisfied with 99% loyalty. Because he knows with 1% he can get in. So what I'm continually doing, and I hope you're doing this, that you're saying, Lord, I want to be faithful. I want to be faithful to you in this age and in the age to come. I just want to be faithful, Jesus. I blew it today. I just want to be faithful to you. Forgive me, Lord, for blowing it today. Lord, I didn't love well. Forgive me, Lord. When we had this posture, instead of accusing those that fail, that we say, Lord, I don't want to fail. Instead of pointing fingers, we enter into some self-reflection like the psalmist said in 139. He said, search me, Lord, if there's anything in my life. Lord, would you reveal it? Instead of getting before the Lord and going, Lord, look at all the stuff I did, we go, Lord, search me. Lord, what's the 1%? If you're doing that good, if you're at 99%, awesome. I'm going to get there one day. But I'm going, Lord, what's the 10%? What's the 12%? What's the parts of my life that are unsurrendered? I'm welcoming that. Can you stand with me?
Thank you so much for joining us today at Overflow Church. Make sure and comment below and let us know that you are here to encounter Jesus with us today. Also, subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss anything coming from us in the future. Have a great week.